Hey, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about beans. And why beans are so important to have in your diet if you want to live to 102, or if you just want to live to a long, healthy life. Why beans are one of the most important foods that you can eat. So in today's video, we're just going to talk all about beans. So I want to start off with a little nursery rhyme that I actually said when I was in school. And every time I think of eating beans, I think of this nursery rhyme. And you guys are probably familiar with it too. So beans, beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So let's have beans at every meal. I just love that little nursery rhyme or that little rhyme. And so always makes me think of beans, and it always makes me giggle. Now, obviously, there's some truth to this rhyme, and some people do have problems with gas. And what happens is the more that you eat beans, the less gas that you have. So Dr. Greger recommends that you eat 1.5 cups of beans per day. And you may need to work up to that, but once you're used to eating that much beans a day, it's not a problem at all. There are many cultures in the world that eat 1.5 cups of beans a day and have no problems digesting them at all. You just have to kind of work up to it. And I think it's worth it. I think it's worth a little bit of discomfort to get this awesome food in your diet. So all the information I'm going to talk about today is from Dr. Greger's cookbook, How Not to Diet, or How Not to Die cookbook, How Not to Die book, and How Not to Diet book. He will be coming out with the How Not to Diet cookbook in the next couple weeks. I think December 8th it launches, and I will go over all of that with you as soon as I get it. I actually just made a recipe this afternoon from that cookbook, which I'll share at the end of this clip so that you can see like a preview of it. And it's very Thanksgiving-ish. It's made with squash, and it has cranberries in it, and sage and thyme, like Thanksgiving type spices and tastes. So I'm excited to try that, and I'll do that later. So beans are an amazing food to eat, and there are many great side effects of eating them. And so why wouldn't you eat them? And so that's what I'm going to talk about today in this video. And I'll have a blog post posted with the link in the description box that goes over everything that I'm going to say today. Everything that I'm going to talk about today, again, is from Dr. Greger's books and from nutritionfacts.org if you want to research it yourself. So I have some little tidbits of facts in between that I think are kind of interesting. So researchers have found that 8% reduction in the risk of premature death for 20-gram increase in daily legume intake. That's barely 2 teaspoons worth. So just think, beans, they claim that beans prevent premature death, and 2 tablespoons a day, that's nothing. That is nothing. So, beans have this really cool effect called the second meal effect. And basically the way it works is if you eat, I'll give an example, but it doesn't matter what meal we're talking about. If you eat beans at dinner and then you sleep, the beans are digesting all night. They go through your intestine and then they go into your small intestine. And when they're in there, they start digesting more because they have something called resistant starch, and that starch goes through your stomach and through your large intestine into your small intestine, and then it starts digesting in there. So because of that, they have less of a calorie effect than what's on the package. So if the package says it's 100 calories, let's say maybe it's actually only 90 once it's actually digested in your small intestine. So you're eating more calories, but you're not digesting the calories that you're eating. And Dr. Greger talks about that a lot. It's not necessarily what you eat, it's what digests in your digestive tract. And beans are one of those cool foods that digest through your whole digestive tract and help with that less calories per meal that you're actually eating because it's still digesting in your small intestine. So what beans do is they lower your ghrelin, and your ghrelin is your hunger hormone, and that's what makes you hungry. And so if we can lower our ghrelin, then we're less hungry. And I think that's really important when it comes to becoming a weight that will let you or allow you to live a long life. Very important. So they do play a role in the prevention of obesity for sure, because they make your ghrelin less, and they're not, you can eat more than you think because they're not digesting in the same way like, let's say, a Twinkie digests. Beans are the best source of resistant starch that you can get. And you want resistant starch because that's where it's going. It's having that second meal effect going through your body. And this was discovered in, believe it or not, 1982, which really wasn't that long ago. And they have a lower glycemic impact on your whole everything that you eat. So I know if you are familiar with keto or you're familiar with low carb, they talk about glycemic index. Beans actually have a lower glycemic index than you think because of the way that they digest in your body. So legumes have been found to be the most important predictor of survival in older people around the world. So if you want to live a long time and you want to be healthy, you got to get your beans in on the regular every day. This is a really cool study that's in the book How Not to Diet. So a Hawaiian study found that an average 17-pound weight loss in 22 days with participants who were eating unlimited veggies, unlimited fruits, unlimited whole grains, and unlimited beans. And that's a 7% on average fat loss for each individual in that study. And that is just unbelievable results. Just from eating whole plant foods, they lost 17 pounds in 21 days on average. That is unbelievable. Now, of course, those results are different depending on how close you are to the weight that you should be. I could do that and I won't lose 17 pounds in 21 days because I'm close to my weight that I'm supposed to be. In a 2015 study, they found that beans were one of the least addictive foods that we can eat, which is really interesting. So the most addictive food that you can eat is like a donut. It has fat and sugar together in it. And so that's a very addictive food. Any food that has a combination of fat and sugar is extremely addictive. And that's why you eat more. Like I could eat a whole dozen donuts, no problem at all. I don't know if I could eat the equivalent size of beans for sure. So bean consumption is also associated with less saturated fat, cholesterol, and less cholesterol intake. Obviously, if you're eating beans which don't have any cholesterol in lieu of eating some meat, then you're getting less cholesterol intake, which we probably all in America need to worry about our cholesterol, especially if you eat animal products. And I'm not saying don't eat animal products. I'm saying probably just try to eat less so that your cholesterol is less. They lower cholesterol, they benefit your blood sugar, and they lower insulin levels, which is awesome because you always hear like, oh, if you are diabetic, you probably shouldn't eat carbs. So I think this is an interesting find in his book. And of course, I'm not the expert, Dr. Greger is, and you need to get the book, How Not to Diet, and you can read all the research. It's all in there. This is like one of the most researched books ever on dieting. So, and that's why it's called How Not to Diet, because you don't have to diet. You can eat as much food as you want. Having beans a few days a week can also lower inflammation in your body. So if you're somebody that has inflammation problems, eating just a few times a week eating beans can help with your inflammation, which I think is an awesome thing. Like, how can it hurt you? And there's a significant link between beans and better health, just like overall better health if you eat more beans in your diet. And again, how can it hurt you to eat more beans? And the awesome thing about beans is they're cheap, very cheap, especially if you buy them in the bag and you put them in your Instapot and you just make a batch of them every single week. That's what I do. A daily cup of beans, chickpeas, or lentils for 3 months may lower resting heart rate as much as exercising for 250 hours on the treadmill. So would you rather eat some beans or would you rather work out 250 hours on the treadmill to lower your resting heart rate, which you need a low resting heart rate? It's no brainer. I work out every single day, but I way rather just eat some beans than spend a bunch of time on the treadmill, unless I was watching my shows. Beans are very cheap, of course. We know that. You can buy them in a bag. They're very cheap. So why not eat them every single day? Get healthy and save money. Seems like a win-win to me. So in Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, he recommends that you get three half cups of beans every single day. So the way that I do that is this. I actually get a little more than 3 cups a day because you'll see why here in a second. So for my breakfast, I eat brole, which I talked about in my last video. I'll link the recipe in the description box. But part of brole is lentils. So you put an equal part of 3 grains and some lentils, black lentils. And then you put that all in your Instapot and you cook it. and then that's kind of like your porridge for the morning. So I eat that. Now that doesn't equal a half a cup of lentils in that thing. So it's I eat 1 cup of that. So it's 1/4 of a cup of beans, theoretically, give or take. So I eat that for breakfast pretty much every single day. Then for lunch, I have a cup of beans, and normally I have black beans. I just prefer black beans. And I just found out from reading on Dr. Greger's nutritionfacts.org that black beans happen to be the most healthiest bean there is to eat. I just prefer black beans. If I don't have black beans, then I eat white beans, which are not as healthy as black beans, but still they're beans. So I eat a cup of beans at lunch, and then I eat a half a cup of beans at dinner. So one of the things that I follow is in the 21 tweaks, which we'll talk about later, but that's preloading your calories. So basically, I'm sure you've heard this saying about how the order you should eat your food. So you're going to eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. So you want to have a really big breakfast with a lot of calories. Then you want to have a smaller lunch, and then you want to have a light dinner. So I've switched to that. It's been difficult, but I have switched to that. And I think it's really helpful, and I think I sleep better because of it. And another recommendation he has in the 21 tweaks is that you stop eating by 7 p.m. So I definitely stop eating by 7 p.m. unless it's a rare day. I try to go to bed by 8, so it's easy to be done eating by 7. So those are some of his tweaks in how not to diet, which I think they're easy things to do. That's how I get my beans in throughout my day. And I pretty much do that every single day. And the way that I do that to make it easy is on Sunday, or you can pick any day you want, I just make a huge pot of beans in my Instapot. And I have them ready to go in my refrigerator in a Ziploc bag, and I just dump them out into my dishes for my lunch and for my dinner. And you don't have to just eat black beans. If you want to make a variety of beans, you can totally do that as well. Another way that I get beans in my diet is that I make hummus, and that's made from chickpeas. I always make hummus every single week. I make my own hummus. It's easy. You just put it in your blender and blend it up. And I use that sort of like a dressing or like a sauce on stuff. I just feel like I want a sauce on things. So I'll use hummus as my sauce on my beans. Or on if I have lettuce or whatever I put in there, I will use my hummus as a sauce. Or if I just get hungry, I'll just have some hummus. I just love hummus with some carrots or whatever. I don't normally get hungry. One of the things that I've found eating so much at breakfast is that you don't really get that hungry throughout the day because you have such a huge breakfast. So I said in my last video, I eat my breakfast around 9 a.m. I don't usually eat lunch until like 2 or 3 o'clock. I'll eat lunch, and then at like 5:30, I will have a very small dinner of just some beans and some vegetables. And that's pretty much it. And I'm not really hungry throughout the day, so I don't snack. But every once in a while, you got to have a snack or something, and I'll usually pick hummus and vegetables just because I just love hummus. All right. Hey, thank you for watching my video. That pretty much wraps up beans. So you need 1.5 cups of beans per day, and you can work up to that. It's a very cheap way to be healthy and to help manage your weight, which we all need in America because we have plenty of food available to us. I think beans are a great way to do that. It's easy, it's fast, and it's cheap. And Dr. Greger, if you read his books, you will learn that he's all about what is the least expensive thing that you can be doing. And I would say beans is pennies on the dollar. Totally inexpensive to eat beans every single day. I would recommend that you invest in either a crock pot or an Instapot, or if you have an old pressure cooker that goes on your stove, you could use that. Now, I've used those before. They're a little bit more dangerous than an Instapot. I'm 100% on solar power, and I can still use an Instapot as long as it's not very cloudy. But I live in Arizona. It's not very cloudy here. So anyway, eat your beans.